press the button, it pairs with your phone, and then you work all the time through the app. So it's kind of the remote control, and it also allows you to see all the data that's coming from the sensors. You place it on your head, and then it's telling you how to adjust it, and that you make sure that your device is well placed so that you will get the best results. And yeah, that's basically how it works. But we have developed it for Android and iOS.
Okay, well, thank you for answering that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, I mean, maybe from the other people, I'm sure you're super interested on niostem. So maybe you can say where you join us from. So, like, which country are you now? And yeah, if I can be of help for anything. Okay, there is some.
So yeah, there's just, some
Yeah,
questions in the
Anish?
chat. We would be sort of recording this session, and once really we sort of edit the videos and everything, I'm sure that we can release them onto some of our platforms so that you can see what was asked and sort of what some of the pertinent questions were.
I mean, there are some questions on the chat, so I will just start with them. So David is asking, what was the variance in hair density during the pilot trial? Let me see if I get this question correctly. When you say variance, is the deviation of the data, the standard deviation of the data, or
Yeah, deviation in the percent change, in the change in hair density, not in the baseline data.
yeah. So basically, what's the range of responses between or among all the participants we had, right? So
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, as you might already know, because it's on the website, so we measured the hair density. We also measured the hair thickness, and this pilot was performing 22 men. They were between 20 and 50 years old, and Norwood scale from 2 to 5, 6, if I'm not wrong. So of course, every single person had a different response. And as you can see, wait a sec, if this is on the website, but basically we have an average increase of 19.3% in hair density. And if I mean, right now from top of my head, I don't remember what's the standard deviation, which would be like what's the high kind of response and the low response. But what I remember from top of my head now is that the average hair density increase in terms of absolute density. So 19.3% is an increase in the percentage wise, right? But if we only look at the absolute increase, so the number of hairs that they were increased after 6 months, we have 40 hairs per centimeter square. And I remember quite well that some people, let's say the low respondents, they got something like 10, 12 plus more hairs per centimeter square, while the kind of high respondents, they got around 60 to 70. So there is quite some variation. But what we also observe is that compared to published data of clinical trials for other treatments like medications, the low respondents of our trial are very much on the range of the average respondents of drugs like finasteride and minoxidil. So most of the respondents we have are kind of in the middle, so around 40 or 60, 70. But the average is, as I said, is 40. And compared to finasteride, for example, so finasteride with the publications that we compared, they have an average increase of 7 to 9 hairs per centimeter square. That answered the question.
Yeah, I think it did. Magnus has a question.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Magnus, Sweden here.
Yeah.
Hi, Carlos. According to the question you just answered, could you say something about, was there any correlation between those high responders and their age versus those low responders and their age?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question, and we were also super interested on that. The answer is we did not see any particular high responding group when we clustered these people according to their hair loss stage or age. So we had we didn't know exactly the age of people, so we had them in ranges because people tend to be reluctant to disclose their exact age. So we had these ranges between 45, 50, 40, 45, etc. And we cluster people according to the age or their hair loss stage, because we thought maybe some people respond better. Maybe people with the scale 2 or 3 that are at the beginning will be better respondents, and maybe people with 5, 6 they are not. But there was no significant difference when we compare all the groups. Of course, we understand that our sample size, while it's not super small, is not like super big as well. So probably in the future, when we run larger studies, we can see if there are specific correlations between age or hair loss stage and the response. But the pilot we run, we didn't see any differences.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep, welcome. Maybe pick one from the chat. So Sam from Spain, hola. So can you explain more about the low-level electrical stimulation and how it works? Yeah, sure. So the low-level electrical stimulation is basically something that our body is used to have, right? Because we have electrical signals in many tissues, and the skin, where the hair is not an exception. So what happens? So first of all, the effect of low electrical stimulation has been shown in the past, and this was in the 90s, to be not only safe but effective against hair loss, as we have also stated on the website. And also more recently, people have been working on that. And how it basically works is that when we place the niostem on your scalp, right? If you place it on your scalp, it will contact the skin, the scalp, and then this stimulation will be applied to your skin. So just to do the upper layer of your cranium, right? So it's not penetrating your bone or anything. And then by doing so, we have demonstrated that it can hit the hair stem cells, and these hair stem cells are the ones responsible for hair growth. So when we hit these hair stem cells, and we have also evidence of this in vitro, so that means in the lab, like working on a petri dish, we have seen that this electrical stimulation of the certain parameters that we found to be the most effective, they can reactivate the regeneration program of the stem cells. So what happens is that these cells will start activating this regeneration program that they're used to do, right? And the thing is that when you are losing hair, this regeneration program, let's say, slows down, and that's why your follicles start miniaturizing. So we found that when we use this stimulation, we can reactivate this. And we have seen this by, for example, looking at which genes, so which DNA is expressed in these cells. And we have seen that this DNA that is expressed in these cells at the moment when we stimulate is the signature, so it's the typical expression program that you would expect when you have hair regeneration. So we have quite some data in the laboratory on how this electrical stimulation can reactivate the cell division. So these cells will divide, and when they divide, they will generate these daughter cells, because what normally stem cells do, they generate daughter cells, and the daughter cells are the ones that will go and build up the hair. So this is the normal way how your hair grows. It grows in cycles. So the stem cells get activated, they grow the hair follicle, right? It grows like downwards, and then you have the hair growing afterwards, and this goes in cycles. And when you have pattern baldness, these stem cells stop working effectively, so they tend to be in kind of this resting phase, so they don't grow hair that often. But when we apply this stimulation, we saw that then they get activated and they will start growing the hair again. And that's how basically the electrical stimulation is reactivating your physiological hair growth process, which is normally inhibited by dihydrotestosterone, but this is a long discussion on how hair loss works. But just focus on this question would be that, if that makes sense, Sam. Yes. Okay, good. That was good. Do we have more raising hands, or maybe we go on the chat with more?
I think we go on the chat.
Okay. Does niostem act on other stem cells than those from the follicles? More precisely, how safe it is in common occurrence such as papillomas, birthmark models of scalp. So we have, let's say that the short answer is that we don't have data showing how the niostem will interact with other types of, let's say, with other things you may have on your skin. Like papillomas are basically like outgrowths that you can have on your skin that are benign, so they are not malignant. Birthmarks, there could be anything. I'm not very familiar with the origin of the birthmarks, but we talk about, for example, moles or freckles or something like this. So we have not really looked into that, especially because the people that participate in our pilot, we selected them, and like when you run this pilot, these trials, you have some inclusion and exclusion criteria. So and this is done for any single new medication or treatment or anything that needs to be tested in humans. So you have some exclusion criteria. Normally you would tend to exclude, let's say, conditions that could interfere with the results. So for example, some of the exclusion criteria we had in our pilot was that you have skin irritations, some people have excessive dandruff, or other problems in the skin of the head, so the scalp. So we exclude all those. So we didn't have anybody with birthmarks or moles or any other, let's say, uncommon skin outgrowths. So we cannot really tell what would happen in these cases. To the question of whether it will act on other stem cells. So we also have not looked into this. And when we have run our own experiments, we have only looked at the hair stem cells. So this will be something that we might be interested to look in the future, at least when, in your skin, you have stem cells that renovate the skin, which could be partially the same that grow the hair, but it's like the different ones in different layers of the skin. So if the stimulation would also influence these other stem cells on the skin, the role of these stem cells is to make skin and to regenerate it, right? So once they produce new skin cells, so the skin grows in layers, then let's say the layers that are coming up, they end up dying. So these cells are not the stem cells anymore. So if we think, for example, of possible, let's say, what could happen if these cells grow and grow and grow, there is a question that we get often. So there is very little risk because the stem cells on the skin, they normally divide, and once they divide, they produce more cells. These cells are not the stem cells anymore. So they have like definite time, then they will die. They have a limited time to live in a way. So if we have these cells renovating the skin, you will have at worst like a better, more how can I say it, more renewed skin in a way, but there is very little risk that something will happen, especially because normally we're recommended to use niostem 30 minutes a day, and this is a very, we call it acute stimulation, so it's very short in the day. If you think of the life of a cell, 30 minutes is a very, very short time, and because it's not continuous, so you don't use it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so there is just enough time for the stem cells of the hair follicle to get activated and to activate the follicle cycle, so to grow hair, but there shouldn't be any other, let's say, side effects of this activation. We have also data that we obtained in the laboratory by using stem cells and also human biopsies, so taken from the scalp, and we can see that after we stop the stimulation, the stem cells come back to their, let's say, their non-activated state. But the ones that were activated and they start the hair follicle cycle, so they start growing hair, they will grow hair and will stop when they have to stop. But the most of the cells, they will stop after half an hour and they will come back to their non-activated state. So they don't get like hyperactivated. Because sometimes we get this, it's frequently asked this question about the possible risks of activation of the stem cells. So this is basically, we think it's still safe. Yes.
Yeah,
Anish?
Magnus has just another question, so maybe we can answer that.
Yeah, thank you. Me again, Magnus from Sweden here again. Carlos, I have another question regarding your trial with the 22 individuals. Did you observe any differences in the same individual person in different areas of the scalp, if he responded better in the crown area, for instance, than in his frontal area, or vice versa?
Very good question, Magnus. Actually, I have the same sort of my former boss when I was at the Max Planck, Wikström. No, we just had, so we measure the hair density in the exact same spot, and in all the participants it was on the crown, because we wanted to standardize that, and we chose a place. So what we did is that we also in the same place we had 4 different in an area, very small area, that was less than a centimeter. We measure 4 different points, having like a central, let's say, anchoring point. We measure 4 different points, and then we average this area. And this is done to reduce also variability, because if you were to measure in one spot, you can have big differences, because maybe it moves a little bit. So we have 4 different points, and we made an average, but all of them were on the crown area, regardless that the participants also had hair loss on the temple areas, but we measure always on the crown.
Thank you for your answer, Carlos. And I'm unfortunately not related to your boss. Thanks.
Don't worry. Okay, shall we take another question from the chat?
Yeah. And Moma's question, maybe?
Can you read it, Anish?
Sure. So in your newsletter, you write under point 4, the product will work, but it will not be of the same high quality that we currently envision it to be. So does that only affect the looking, or also just its performance?
That's a good question. So this newsletter, can you give me a little bit more of context? Because if I'm honest with you, I don't get the newsletters. So in which context is this? Is in terms of the 3D printing devices compared to manufactured devices?
I think it was in the context of if the Indiegogo fails or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then it's on the basically the quality of the final product. So then I remember a little bit what was in this part of the newsletter. So right now we can produce, or not right now, but in a few weeks we will be able to have hopefully devices that we can 3D print. 3D printing is I mean, most of you might be aware of this technique. It's expensive, but we can get the devices with the form factor, so with the shape and functionality that we want. They just look differently because the materials that are used for 3D printing are not the same that you will use for a final product. For example, a final product, just very simple. If you have a mouse for your computer, right? You can feel this is, say it's plastic, right? It feels very smooth. These parts are produced in manufacturing lines in which you have molds that are made of metal, stainless steel, and then you pour, let's say, liquid plastic. So you can make very, very precise and very robust parts in this way. But to establish this manufacturing line, any company, and we as a startup, we will have to do the same. We'll have to invest a lot of capital in the molding forms and also on the process establishment. So the difference between a 3D printer and a final product is that the final product will cost us, let's say, less at the end of the day, but the investment that we need to do is huge. But right now we can do 3D printing, which is, the form will be the same, but the quality of the plastic will not be the same. So the final product will be slightly better because it feels like it should. With the 3D printing, we have only very few textures that we can have, and we have a specific texture that we want for the device. So we might not be able to achieve the 3D printed, but it will work. It will just look different, like rough. So I hope that answered your question. So it's about the looks, but not about the functionality, because the functionality, so what gives you the outcome at the end of the day is all the electronics that are inside, but the structure that is a device, the niostem, this will only help you just adapt to your head, right? But this could be of plastic that is 80% great, or plastic that could be 100% great. But the kind of core, the heart of the device is what is inside. And this is what will be definitely the same in the device that we can produce in a few weeks' time, or device that will be produced after the manufacturing by the end of the year.
We have a question that says, will there be a difference in working effects and or time to see and get results if someone has hair? So, for instance, the length of your hair, Carlos, or someone with shorter hair, so 2 to 4 centimeters in length.
Okay, let me just read it because I didn't get it. In working effects. Okay, I see. I don't expect that there will be any difference if you have hair like I have. So if I made my hair loose, it's a little bit like this here. I don't see there will be a difference. So we actually had in the pilot people that had very short hair. So basically they used to shave their head because they just decided that was how they wanted to have it. And we had people that had the hair length. We didn't really measure the hair length at that point, but I can tell that it was at least 6 to 8 centimeters long. And there was no any significant difference. So as soon as the device and the electrodes, so we have this brush flexible electrodes, you can see them on the pictures with the kind of, we call them pillars. As soon as they can penetrate your hair, there should be no difference in terms of the results. It would be different if you have, I mean, some people may have a lot of volume on the hair. Let's say, I don't know if you guys know Michael Jackson in the old times. So you have like a lot of hair like this. Of course, with those people, it might not work because then the distance between the scalp and the hair and to pressure it will be higher than the distance of the electrodes. But we have also the possibility to use electrodes that have longer pins. And this would be more useful for people that have a lot of hair or the hair is very thick. However, in our experience, people that are the people that we want to help primarily are people that have hair thinning or have not so much volume already. So we don't think this would be a big problem. But of course, if you have, if your hair is very curly and then the volume is very high and you still have hair loss, then you might have more difficulties for the device to actually contact your scalp, but you will see it immediately on the app because the sensors will tell you whether it's well placed or not. And we will have also a possibility, because we have seen by testing with a lot of customers, we might have the possibility, but it's still like on the making, so this is not like public yet, to have an optional strap that maybe you can also tighten a little bit more if you need more pressure, if you were to have a lot of hair volume. But most of the, like 98% of the people we've tested and that we've talked to, they tend not to have very thick hair or very huge volume of the hair, because then they tend not to have hair loss. Okay, I saw the thumbs up. That's good. Okay, so David is asking, the concept of electrical stimulation for hair growth is not particularly new. That's right. How do you improve the MOA or general effectiveness compared to those in early studies? That's a very good question. So we think that one of the good things that the concept of using electrical stimulation for, let's say, against hair loss, we think that the fact that it's not that new is good because it has been already proven, right? As I said, there are scientific publications dating in 1990s. There are more publications in the basically like a few years ago. So this is good because it's confirming that what the technology we are using is effective, right? Because people have also seen it. It's not us that invented this. The thing is that our kind of insight onto the hair loss that many people still don't have comes from the understanding of the stem cell biology. So this comes from my previous research when I was a researcher at the Max Planck. And what I was doing there was I was studying these hair stem cells. I was not precisely studying how hair grows. I was initially looking into cancer, skin cancer, and just studying like a super interesting concept that I wanted to explore by then. And then because I had to study these cells to understand the cancer, how cancer would develop, then we ended up, or I ended up understanding and learning a lot about how the stem cells work, to the point that I developed a new technology. So it's a laboratory tool, is to grow in a petri dish these cells, right? So you can take them, put them in a petri dish, and they will grow, and then you can manipulate them. You can understand what they do, how they do it, and you can test different things, right? So this is what we have done in the past. And as I said, I was the first one back in 2017, the first one to ever invent such technique for hair stem cells. It was done before for other stem cells, like gut stem cells. And I just asked myself, like, can we do the same with hair? Because with the hair stem cells, because we wanted to study them, but we couldn't. So I went on and invented this method. And because that was not possible before, only after I developed this method, you could start asking questions to these stem cells without the need of using, for example, animal models. Like most of the people studying hair stem cells, they studied in mice and in living animals, right? But doing experiments with animals, I mean, don't want to go into that, but it's complex. So I wanted to do it in an easy way. And then once you have them growing a petri dish, you can do lots of different things. So you can do drug screens, you can ask what happens if you put aspirin or caffeine or whatever. And this knowledge was not there before. So with this advanced knowledge and the technique that I had in my hands, and I still know how to do this, so we were able to probably I was among the 5 to 10 scientists in the world that could be doing this back then. So we could very quickly get this knowledge and start testing different things. And because in the lab I was working, we were also working with mechanical stimulation of cells, because cells do not respond only to chemical signals, but also to mechanical signals. So, and then I was lucky enough that I was in this lab and we were doing experiments with these hair stem cells in which we were, for example, changing the how can I say, the complexity of the environment where we have the cells to make them more hard or make them more soft. And then we're seeing how the stem cells could change their behavior, right? And what the stem cells, hair stem cells do is that they grow hair. So that was the link. And that was the knowledge that actually allow us to check and find a specific set of stimulation parameters, because there are many parameters that we tested, that we could see all these parameters when applied in certain combinations and when changed in a timely manner, they can stimulate the stem cells to regenerate hair. And this is what people didn't know before. Probably they knew that if you put, because in these publications, like back in the 90s, if you put like a booth, like a salon booth, and you do this kind of sapping of the scalp, like with electromagnetic stimulation, like it's like electrocution in a way. They saw that that has had positive effects in terms of slowing down hair loss, but they didn't know exactly how this working. And also like doing this like zapping, like electrocution, is kind of more brutal and not, it's like shooting in the dark in a way. You know it works, but how it works, you don't know it exactly. So we found a way that we can, with the specific conditions in terms of the stimulation, we can specifically stimulate the hair stem cells and then therefore promote hair regrowth. So that's the basic difference. And this was not possible before because the technology wasn't there yet. Okay, good. I will just drink a little bit more. So Dawson has another question. So if we continue to simulate the follicles by using the device every day, will they perpetually be in anagen? I mean, perpetually means forever. And I think, I mean, we have no data that will indicate that. I don't know. I don't think we are doing anything that overrules the natural laws of your body. So normally the hair follicles on the scalp are around 6 to 8 years in anagen, and that's why the hair grows so long, right? What happens when you're losing hair is that many more of this, so and you have around something around 80% of all the hair follicles at a given time point in anagen. So if you think they are for 8 years growing in anagen and 80% are growing, so this is someone that is not experiencing hair loss. When you experience hair loss, you have more of these follicles remain quiescent, so they remain quiet, resting, so-called telogen phase. In this telogen phase, hair is not growing. And this is because of the effects of the DHT mainly. So if you are losing hair, you will have only like, I don't know, around 40% of the hairs in anagen. So let's say half of the ones that were in anagen, of the 80, only 40 will be growing. So the ones that are not growing, your hair will start thinning over time, because the hair follicle is like a muscle. If it doesn't grow, the hair starts miniaturizing, right? So there is no action of the hair follicle, there's no action of the hair stem cells, so it starts miniaturizing. So what I think our niostem is doing is that it can reactivate those follicles in telogen, so in the resting phase, and we will bring them back to the anagen. But now, if we can extend the 8 years that normally your hairs will be in anagen, I don't think we can do it. But I can tell you that if you can bring them, most of them, if not all, to anagen, and we're talking about bringing the 80%, right? Because probably 100% is not possible, right? This is not how the body works. But if we can bring this, you have no hair loss, 80% anagen follicles, you have hair loss, 40%. We can bring this back to 80, 75. I can tell you will not have hair loss. So you don't want your hairs to be all your life in anagen. And I think that's what we are achieving. So we bring them back to anagen, and they will then remain there with this stimulation of their anagen entry, right? Because the ones that are intelligent, they just cannot enter on this growth phase. And what we are doing is that we activate them so that they can grow, they can enter on the growth phase. But once they're in the cycle, they will continue growing as usual, right? So I think that's my personal opinion about this infinite anagen.
Magnus has a question.
Me again. Hi, Carlos. Once
Hi.
again, I have a question regarding what would be your best guess regards to that 6-month trial? Are your thoughts? Do you think that after 6 months use, it could be even better results, or have it reached its maximum after 6 months?
Yeah, good question again, Magnus. So my answer is based on the data we have. So what we've seen, and I mean, we haven't published this on the website as I'm looking at it now because I have some graphs open here. The reason is, but we still are aiming to publish this data in a scientific journal. So we want to communicate as much as we want on how it works. But basically, from the results, like how it works section of our website, you can see that we have results by 3 months and 6 months. So if now we look at the hair density increase, and we're talking about hairs over a centimeter square of your scalp, we can see that in 3 months, the increase is around 11%. And then after 6 months, it's around 19%. So it doesn't double, but there is a consistent increase on the so there is a trend of a constant increase. So there is no clear signs of this increase plateauing, so flattening. So my personal expectation is that the more you use the device, the more you will see your hair loss will regenerate. So the more increase you will see. I don't know if this will be a linear increase, right? Because at some point you cannot grow more hair than what you have, because what we are doing is reactivating those follicles in telogen, the miniaturized ones. But once all your follicles will be active, right? And again, we're talking about this 80% of the ones that grow. Once you grow them all, you will not continue growing more hair. So at some point it will plateau because you cannot grow infinite amount of hair. So length, it can go long, right? But the density cannot increase infinitely. You only have a certain number of hair follicles, and there are like 100,000 on your scalp. Of those, some will have already been miniaturized because you have hair loss, right? So we're reactivating those, but you will reach a point when, if you had 100,000, right, and now you have 50,000 that are intelligent, if you reactivate them all, then at some point you will reach the plateau of the 100,000. So your hair density will not continue increasing. But if you have reached this point, you won't have any more worries because you have no more hair loss, right? If all your hairs are already growing, it's just a matter of time for you to regenerate your hair, right? Because if they all continue growing, you will start, let's say, the appearance will start kind of, let's say, the coverage will start kind of closing up, and then you will start seeing that you have the hair as you had it before. And what we also have data is that we see a clear and significant increase in the 6 months of the hair thickness, which is also great because it's not only that you have more hair density, so more hairs in a certain area, but those hairs are also thick enough that you can see them because those are the cosmetically relevant hairs. So we also see that we have a significant increase, and this of 9.1%. And I do expect that this increase will continue to grow after the 6 months. So in short, we have data showing that the increase is steady and it doesn't plateau by 6 months. But then it will depend on how much hair loss you have, because if you have a lot, then you have a lot of room to grow, right? But if you have little, then with the device you are reactivating your hair growth, so you are basically stopping completely your hair loss, and at some point you will reach your point in which is your younger you, so like you don't have no hair loss anymore, and then it will plateau there, but then you are satisfied.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for your great answer.
Okay.
Hope you will be right. Thank you.
I mean, that's what data show us. So I hope that's the case. There were more questions. Let me see, because it moves now. Could you tell something? So this is Fe. So Fe. Could you tell something about the new clinical trial planned in Germany? Is there a possibility to take part? Yes, there will be in summer our new trial with a larger group. So we want to strengthen data, and also, like the more people, the data is more robust. There is a possibility for you to participate. We're still, how can I say, we are still defining the small details of it. So we expect that once our Indiegogo campaign is live in just a few weeks, 2 weeks, we expect that once this is running, we can give you more details. But let's say in short, there will be a chance. It will be in Germany, in West Germany. So if you would like to, you will need to fulfill the inclusion criteria, right? As I mentioned before, there are inclusion and exclusion criteria. This will be only for men. And we will communicate a little bit more on the procedure once the campaign is live. We do want to extend this opportunity to people that have already purchased the device on Indiegogo. This is a way of giving back to our supporters, to our backers, a little bit of what they do with us. So they support us. So we kind of want to extend this opportunity for these people to do it. And I think in the month of May, we will send more information. And people interested should just contact us. We also have a list of people that have expressed by email, either emailing me directly or at the info@niostem.com email address. We can also put you in a list to kind of have a closer follow-up. But yeah, there is a possibility. And then if you fulfill the criteria, you will be able to. We hope you will be able, right? Because this is being run by a third party. It's totally independent. But we have already discussed that we want to bring some of our backer supporters and customers to have the chance on the trial. So if you have interest, just email us. Otherwise, we will be emailing all our subscribers in May. Sam, did you have any people with hair transplant in the pilot? We did not. That doesn't mean anything about hair transplants. It was part of our exclusion criteria. So you can imagine that in these trials, you need to have, if you want to make sense of the data that comes out, you need to be very strict in terms of what can and cannot be allowed. I can tell you one of our exclusion criteria is that people are taking finasteride or minoxidil, because then we cannot rule out compounding effects. It doesn't mean that niostem and medications would not work or would not work better, because I know people do combination. It doesn't mean that. It just means that if we want to know what our device, like quantify exactly in a larger group what the outcome is, we cannot combine it with different things, because then data is not clear, right? Is it coming from finasteride or any medication, or is it coming from the device? In the same order of ideas, transplantation also, we did not want to have people with transplant in there. It doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. We actually have, we have had a lot of conversations with hair surgeons, because they are very interested. When we talk to them, we do think that niostem could be a perfect complementary option for people with hair transplants. I don't know how much, guys, you know about hair transplants, but basically, if you get a transplant, they will take hair from some donor area at the back and put it on the top where you want it. But your hair loss will continue, right? Because a transplant doesn't stop the problem. So normally after hair transplant, you will need to have, you will need to take medications. Normally it's finasteride, 1 milligram daily. And this is for as long as you want to keep your transplant. So we also want to offer, and we're talking to these practitioners, to offer the option to customers that they could either take finasteride or minoxidil for as long as they want the transplant, or they could use also a non-invasive solution like niostem, which is a perfect alternative. And we believe that this could also work quite well. And it could also help. I mean, I'm not sure about the timing after the transplant when you can start using it. This you have to consult with your own physician. But I'm sure this can also help on the healing process, because electrical stimulation has also been used for wound healing. So it basically accelerates the healing process. And I think such solution well-timed after a transplant can also help with the grafts kind of grafting better, because sometimes they fall and so on. And maybe you will have better results after a transplant. And as I said, you have an alternative to medications to maintain your transplant and still what you, let's say, the hair that you still have. So transplantations and niostem, I think, is something super interesting, and we'll be most likely exploring this in the future with one big clinic with which we're discussing now some details, but we want to explore that because it's really interesting to give people with transplant the possibility to use non-invasive and no side effects solution for keeping their transplant and perhaps improving also their hair growth. Okay, so there is another one, MoMA. How is the after sales plan? Repairs, etc. So that's a very good question, and we are already planning many of these things. Of course, everybody, all the backers on Indiegogo will have 24/7, let's say 24/7 working hours, of course, sales support. So any questions about any updates, what's going on with the process, with the production, with the delivery, everything, we will be more than happy to provide information in the regular basis. So this is for the time you are waiting for devices to be actually produced. Then when you get them delivered, if we think already of October, November 23, This would be like the after sales maybe that you're referring in case the device is broken or something. So of course, the device, as any device in the EU, has a guarantee. So that covers the technical part of the device, right? So if the device stops working, of course, you will be able to claim the guarantee. And this is like any electronic, consumer electronic device. There are simple things like, okay, if you take the device and put it in a bucket of water and then it breaks, of course, this can't be covered, but normal things will be able to cover the guarantee. So depending on what's the problem, we'll have also some engineers that can help you troubleshooting if there is anything. So we're already thinking of this. We have already started thinking of ticketing systems so that you can contact us, you get a number, and then one of our engineers will focus on that and try to help you. If the device is definitely faulty or something, you will send it back to us and you will get a replacement, or we will fix it for you. So this is a little bit like standard consumer electronics. So we're thinking of that already, although it's in half a year. So,
Magnus, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I'm shooting questions here for Carlos.
don't
He's
worry.
getting tired of me soon. Carlos, regards to that, you just mentioned, can we see as users of the device if one or several of the electrodes isn't working? Is there any light from them that, well, now they are okay, it's green light, but all of a sudden it doesn't show any light, so I can call you and say this electrode is not working, or is it observable for us to users to know if one or several of the electrodes for some reason wouldn't work?
Yeah, so again, good questions. Basically, every single electrode, we have made them in a way that they are also functioning as sensors. So we can see in the app, and you will be able to see in the app, whether or not they are working, right? And this is very simple. Also, if you were to have like problems of something with the device, as I said, we have this, we're installing, or let's say in the process of developing this ticketing system in which you can contact one of our engineers, and they will be able to very quickly and remotely, they can also see and check whether all your electrodes are working. But it's as simple as, like you can touch it also with your hands, and it should mimic when you put it on your head, right? Because you have the same skin, so you can easily see. And if you have some problem, like technical problem, you can contact us. In the app there is the option to contact us directly, and depending of, sometimes people have questions about, like we expect to have questions about pricing, about, for example, shampoos that could be used together with that, or technical problems or functioning problems, instructions problems. So then every ticket will be sorted out. But basically in the app you can see exactly how it's working, and we will be able to do that as well remotely. And maybe because I'm talking about the app, Faye also has a question about the permanent connection. So normally you would need to have internet connection to use the app, and it's just because how the app is set up. It communicates with the cloud, right? But we are enabling also the option that, for example, if you were to be 1 week, 2 weeks off in the jungle with no connection, you could still use the device without the connection, right? But at some point you will need to connect again, because there are also updates of the firmware of the app and so on. And we expect, because it's a smart device, to be connected. But definitely we are already installing the option that you can use it without internet connection. But at some point you will need to connect to the internet. That's how it will work. And maybe Sam has this question about your purchases one more device. Yes, there is this option. If it's not out already, is coming up. Anish, do you know about the option of buying two devices?
I don't think I have the details for that, but
Okay, but I can tell you that yes, we got a lot of requests, and then we thought, okay, that's kind of a good chance that people can also share, let's say, their enthusiasm and what they will be able to do with their against their hair loss with someone else. So we also definitely have a possibility to have to buy two devices. This will be one of the perks or like of the packages of the Indiegogo campaign, and by doing so, you will be able to get even more reduced price. So if you buy them at the same time too, then you will get a higher reduction. And this kind of to support also people sharing, because we always say sharing is caring. So, and we got a lot of requests. So this will definitely be there for the Indiegogo. The details of when it is announced and how much and so on, we need to wait maybe this or next week. Maybe Emil is finalizing these details, but this will be possible. Yes, I'm going through the questions. Do we have
at least with the ones in chat, I think we've reached the end. If anyone has sort of any other questions, feel free to ask or write in chat. Sam's asking a question: do I claim $25 for two devices?
Yeah, as I said, Sam, I think it's all good questions because it's all about the details. For sure, this week or next week, you will know more about it. But there will be something, so you shouldn't worry about it. We will have the information on you. I mean, also, if you guys have any suggestion or any other comments, I'm here, so I'm happy to. I'm always interested to hear what people think or believe or want to say. I mean, I'm always talking to people in general, with people with hair loss, right? So I'm always very happy to learn about the customers. Will niostem be a game changer? We're working on that, and I think so. I think so because, I mean, after talking to a lot of people with hair loss, I can see, because I still have enough and good hair still, right? So probably in a few years I will also have hair loss. But talking to a lot of them, I can see there is not really good solutions out there, and I think bring these insights into the stem cell biology of hair, and now applying some of these mechanical concepts of stem cell in activation, right, and bringing this to market. I'm very excited because I've been working on this for 4 years already, and I think we have a great team, and I think we have a good product. We're doing everything possible with the engineers and everybody in the team, also with like marketing, sales, and we're a small team, but we call us for different functions because we do everything. But I believe we are bringing something very innovative, that we have put a lot of work, and I think with the results we have seen, I think it will make a big difference for many people. We just hope not to disappoint you, so we're doing everything possible, and that's one of the reasons we are having this type of events, because we're doing all this for you guys, for our customers, and anything we can learn, we're more than happy to try to accommodate, right? We cannot do everything, but we listen. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly talking to nowadays to different media, so we have quite some good coverage, and we're always happy to talk about what we do. We haven't been doing this in the past because we're just like under the earth trying to work and trying to make it work, because I know I got a lot of requests many years ago, and when I was trying to explain people that we're working on something that doesn't happen like from one day to another, people get a little bit emotional about it. So I always try to keep not communicating too much, because I never like to make false expectations. But when we now realize that we have the device and we are coming to market, of course, we want to communicate more and say what we do, why we do it, how we do it, how we are different, why is now and not 10 years ago. So I'm more than happy to do it. And yeah, we're doing our best with Anish and Emil and all the team. So any suggestions are always welcome.
Faye is asking us about the hair growth tracking sensors.
Yeah, so basically we are working now. So the sensors we developed and we have tested, we have invested a lot of time on that. They can tell you at the moment, but we are developing, right? So we are in the development process. So now they work as an MVP, if you want to call it this way. We know they work for the basic function, which they can sense and tell you whether or not the device is well placed, and also if it's in good contact with your scalp. And only when all these conditions are met, then you can start the session. That's how we call it, the 30-minute session, to start regrowing your hair. We have already, we are in the process of working on the next iteration of the sensors, because we can also make them sense your hair. And we're in the process, and this is something we are trying to do in collaboration with research institutions. So here in Germany, there is this, let's say, big family of institutes called the Fraunhofer. So we are collaborating now with two. One is working on image recognition, AI, and machine learning, for us to be able to use your mobile phone, take a picture, and accurately tell you how much, compared to another picture, your hair has changed. So basically, to monitor your hair growth, over time. And this, we're doing it with this institute. We're in the process of writing grants and then working together. And the other option we had is we're also working in parallel, is to use the sensors we already have on the device to make them be able to quantify your hair, so that over time, because you always put the device in the same place, right, always, every day, over time we can actually sense by some properties of your hair, of the scalp, sweat, all these things. It's a bit complex, but we can use these sensors to tell you over time how much more hair you have. And this is something we are currently working on. So yes, this is about the sensors. Yes, Michael's asking about the German Dutch government. Yes, we have support from we're a German startup. Since 4 years, we are on the how can I say, on the adventure to bring this to market, on the struggle. We've had several let's say packages of support from the government, the German government, of course. We also have a daughter company in the Netherlands. This simply because of some investment reasons, nothing to go into details, but we also now have a grant from the Dutch government that is actually supporting us on development of these sensors. So we are making this in collaboration with experts and our own engineers, of course. So yes, it's true. Wait, now it's at, okay, let's see. Okay, I will take this question by Manuel, as haven't answered any question from him. And I see we are running out of time, but we can make 5 more minutes. Is there any way to find out if my cells can be reactivated, or if it's too late for me already before testing the device? Unfortunately, I don't know any way you can actually check this. Normally, even if you don't have hair, so even if you are completely bald, you would still have hair follicles, because the hair follicles are miniaturized, and what you don't see is the hair. Right? If you look very closely in the mirror, you will see this kind of whitish, like baby hair. If you have a follicle with hair and it's not dead, but now you can ask me, like, is it kind of completely degenerated? That's another good question. I don't think there is a way to see it, but if you have these miniaturized follicles, those still, it's been shown scientifically, they still have hair stem cells. If you have the hair stem cells, you can reactivate them, and when you reactivate them, they will start growing the hair follicle. This is, of course, not a process that happens from one day to another, right? Because solving hair loss is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So over time, these miniaturized hair follicles will start growing. I think the more time it has passed since you have the bald area, and we're talking about the difference between 5 years, 10 years, or 30, 40 years. I think the more time has passed, the more likely is that some of those follicles are already degenerated to the point that you don't have even viable stem cells in there. But normally, I mean, when we have talked to customers and done a lot of customer development, when people are completely bald and they have lost their hair maybe 30 years, normally they are not very interested on regrowing hair. So I think it might be too late for them, but they are not all interested. So I don't know what's your specific situation with this, but if your hair loss, I mean, it's always better to start early, right? It's better to prevent than to have to fix. So if you are in a stage 2, 3, and then you see it staining, like maybe here you start seeing with the light a little bit of scalp, then of course it's better you start immediately. Then you will not have to regrow so much, because you will just maintain and then it start growing slowly. Now, if you have already for 40 years hair loss, then you have more chances that more follicles will not be viable still. But unfortunately, there is no way. I mean, the only way you could do it, but this is not something that is done in practice. You take a biopsy, so you take a piece out of your scalp. This is routine, but it's painful, and I think not many people will be willing to do that. You can take them out, and then you can check the hair follicles in there, and you can check if there are still stem cells. But I can tell you we've done such things, but it's not routine. So it's very expensive, and you will not be able to do it. And then on this spot, but you don't know this spot. So it's very difficult to actually know it. But I would say if you have hair loss for not more than 30 years, and you still care about your hair, so that you want to have it and you want to regrow it, I think it's worth giving it a try. And look at the results. I think is the best you can do, because if you really care, I think you should do it. I mean, probably if you care, you have done things like finasteride, minoxidil, or I don't know, laser caps, or biotin, or caffeine shampoo. You have done so many things that if you care, you should still give it a try. But if it's 30 years already, maybe you don't care so much. Okay. Shall we maybe take the last question, Anish?
Yeah, should we take it from Juan? How would we be sure that these shots in the dark are accurate enough not to go beyond the level where they should arrive and not affect sensitive neurons?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So basically, the scale of the simulation we're using is so low that you cannot even feel it. The device is designed specifically. We tested many different combinations, sizes, distances, parameters. So we've done a lot of let's say research and development of this device, and we are sure now that by the form factor we have, with the exact things we are using in terms of electronics, sensors, electrodes, the scale of the simulation we're using, which also is backed by a lot of literature, is safe and remains on your skin. So there is no risk that it goes to your brain, for example. For example, there are other devices that they specifically want to target your brain, and this is for, it's called transcranial stimulation with electrical stimulation. There are commercial products there that are on the market, and they use 100 to 300 times on a scale the electrical stimulation, and is focused on 2 points. It's like drilling with a lot of power that it goes through the skull. So this device are placed here. It goes through the skull, and it simulates your brain in some areas that are related to depression and things like that. So, and they have very good results. So even though that penetrates your skull and hits your brain, it has very positive results for the stuff they are treating, right? So now we're talking about our device that uses 300 times less energy and is equally distributed on the scalp, and you cannot even feel it. And we have seen that only targets the skin, right? Whereas, because we only need the effect on the skin, right? We don't need the effect anywhere else. So we are sure that these ones will not be having any harmful side effects. Also, when we had the pilot, we did not see any type of complaints or reports or anything that could indicate anything on this direction. Yeah, yeah, maybe it helps other things. Well, I think we managed to
Yeah.
answer all the questions. Maybe
Most of the
if
questions.
not,
Yeah.
just send us an email again to the info@niostem.com, or my email is carlos@niostem.com. We're more than happy to listen to your what you're thinking, like your worries, your concerns, um, anything you want to tell us. As I said, we're very happy to hear from you, and we always try to be very customer focused. And yeah, so just reach out to us, let us know how we can improve, what we can keep doing well. And I think from my side, yeah, thank you for the questions. I don't know, Anish, you want to?
Yeah, really thank you all for coming here, for giving us your valuable insights, valuable questions. It really also helps us see what's more important for our customers, what we should focus better. And yeah, we hope, especially with everything Carlos explained, we hope we could answer all of your concerns. And we would be sort of doing such webinars fairly frequently. So definitely, keep an eye out for this.